Hello, welcome to At the Redline podcast. I got Brett Gillen here. Brett is someone that I've gotten to know over the last year and a half or so. He leads a ministry organization with youth and athletes here in Spokane and regionally, and is also, can I say anything about the thing? Sure. Yeah, is also the new youth pastor at River City Church. We're really excited to see what God is doing with that. Uh, at the Redline podcast is a podcast put on by me, coaching the Redline, and often like to talk about burnout and overload and busy and hurry and those kinds of things. But normally we just kind of go wherever
Fair
it
enough.
goes. So
That'd be great.
Brett, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, Brett Gillen, the area director for Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Been doing that now for about a year. Our ministry has been growing quickly. We're now in about 10 different schools, and our mission is just to lead every coach and athlete into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ and the church. And we used our platform of athletics to do that.
Nice.
And so, man, we've had a blast doing that. And yeah, like you said, I just took on the role at River City Church, leading our youth as well. So we're excited to start launching some events for them as well in the near future.
Nice. You know, one of the things I've asked people to do is share their salvation story. I know I didn't tell you that, but
Yeah.
I think it's fun to share. I think it's encouraging for people to hear, and I always like to give people an opportunity if they want to.
Absolutely. I'd be more than happy to. I mean, I came to know Jesus, gosh, in 2006. So it's been a minute, and I came to know him through coaching. I filled in for a coach who went on maternity leave, and there were three young ladies on that team who were very bold and very confident in their faith, and they were reading their Bibles at tournaments, and they would always be encouraging me to go to church and pursue that. And so through their influence, I started doing that. And that's how I came to know Jesus. So for me, faith and athletics have been merged at the hip for a long time. And there's been a couple checkpoints along the way where those two have continued to weld together even tighter. And yeah, I mean, it's powerful what influence we have through our relationships that we have with people. And so never take those for granted. Any chance you get to engage with somebody, please slow down. You've always got stuff to do. You've always got meetings to go to, but sometimes that might be your only interaction with that individual, and you can have a lasting impact through that. So
Nice.
I would encourage people to slow it down a little bit and engage in those personal relationships.
Nice. So, Brett, you're not a Spokane guy. You've only been here for a little while. Can you tell us just briefly how you ended up here, or where you're from, or where you grew up? You know,
Absolutely. So I'm originally from Fresno, California, smack dab in the middle of the state.
Yeah, okay.
We're in the neutral part. Everybody's always trying to go to the coast or up north, and people just drive right on by us. So it's nice. But I got married to my wife, and then she's a college volleyball coach. I was a college volleyball coach as well, and we got married, and she took a job in Virginia. So we were off and running since then. So we've been now 4 states in about 7 years,
Uh-huh.
traveling all the way across the country to Virginia, to Wyoming, back to Indiana, and now here to Washington, where she's currently the assistant coach
Okay.
for the women's volleyball team
The women's volleyball team at.
at Gonzaga. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Nice. She's kind of a big shot around church. So, um, we talked briefly before, but I wonder, in the training that I did as a life coach, they talked about coaching. They talked about why humans, benefit from coaching.
Mhm.
And they took it from different perspectives, but one of the perspectives they took about it from is the sports perspective.
Mhm.
Michael Jordan, arguably the greatest athlete of all time, still had a coach, right? And
Mhm.
benefited from it. I
Yep.
wonder if, as an athlete, you were a kind of high-end athlete. I think you played college
Yep.
volleyball.
Yep.
And probably had aspirations for being on the U.S. Olympics and all that kind of stuff.
Not quite that big, but yeah.
But anyway, I wonder if this is totally just for my own benefit. And,
Sure.
and obviously, as a coach, I'm trying to project that coaching is a benefit, a life benefit for people. But talk to us about why coaching is a help for, in your, genre, athletes.
Mhm.
But, yeah, just if you could riff
Yeah.
on that for a bit.
Man, I loved my time coaching college volleyball. It was man, it was a blast. And I always viewed coaching, it's two parts, for at least for me it was building relationships with kids, because once you show that you care about them, they're more inclined to give more effort and you can get more out of them. And the second was, man, I enjoy puzzles. And so I always viewed each kid and each team as a puzzle. Like, once you solve out what makes them tick, what drives them, what motivates them, now you can really start to create individual change. And then now when you apply that to a team setting, now you can create some positive team change. And now you can drive towards your goal of whatever you guys are setting out, trying to achieve. And so through those two different dynamics, through kind of my mindset of, man, I love puzzles, and my mindset of, man, we got to build personal relationships with these kids. Not so much so I got to know everything about their lives, but I got to know enough where if I see their body language is different, I can ask hey, something's different about you today. And now you can resolve any kind of off-court issues and now help get them refocused and get them back on track to achieve what we're setting out to do. And so through those two things, man, I loved coaching. I loved getting to know kids. I loved finding out what motivated kids, what they wanted to achieve through their goals. And now it's what our job is as a coach, to apply our knowledge, our skills to help them achieve their goal, and also achieving everybody as a whole to achieve our team goal through that.
How does having a coach in athletics improve the individual athlete?
I mean, that's it. We can only push ourselves so far as individuals. I mean, if you try to go to the gym by yourself, like, you'll be pretty motivated for a while. Then over time, if you continue to go, like, you're eventually going to kind of fall off a little bit. You need somebody that's going to challenge you, whether it's just you're at the gym by yourself working out and somebody just kind of walks by that you know, and they just say like a little remark and like, oh, that's all you got on there today. I'm like, something as little as that just keeps you motivated, keeps you driving to be better. And we need to have people in our lives that challenge us to be just a little bit better than what we think we're capable of, or give us direction, or even provides the steps and the scaffolding to achieve those goals. And coaches, that's what we get to do. We get to help those athletes, push them just a little bit beyond their capabilities or what they think they're capable of, and get them beyond that mental barrier that sometimes we put on ourselves.
Okay, so you're talking about motivation, accountability, building the person. What about that second set of eyes? What about, I imagine, I used to be an athlete. I mean, never high level, but I was very athletic, played a lot of tennis, soccer, basketball, and especially tennis. Like, I was really keen on tennis. And I remember that there had to be times in my career as a tennis player in high school that somebody could see what I couldn't see as far as form. And I wonder if you could even just share a little bit about that.
So we always, I mean, it's like trying to lead a horse to water sometimes. Like, you can't get them there unless they willingly want to go there. And so we always like to watch film with our athletes, because you can tell them over and over and over again, hey, you need to correct this. Hey, you need to correct this. But until they visually see it, they don't really put the two together. And so we love to watch film with our athletes, because now we can sit down, okay, we're watching this together. And instead of me dictating kind of what I want you to fix, I can now ask you, I'm like, hey, on this play here, what'd you see? I'm like, well, why you missed that ball long out of bounds? I'm like, what happened? I'm like, was something wrong with your swing? Was your footwork off? I'm like, what was it? And now you can kind of lead the athletes into seeing some of the flaws or things they need to correct. And that's how we kind of mentor and support that type of growth from a functional standpoint of mechanics and those kind of things.
But you see it before they do. That's my point. As a coach, and I mean, that's my whole point, is that why do humans need coaches is because we're not very good at seeing ourselves, right?
We're not good at self-reflection. But as a coach, I can only see those things if I'm watching a lot of film prior to watching it with those kids, because now I've got to fine-tune my eye, my attention to detail before I could ever go and try to influence an athlete as well.
I wonder if an athlete was forced to watch film of himself and you were forced to watch the exact same film, who would be more likely to spot areas of improvement, the coach or the athlete?
Depending on the athlete, but most of the time it's a coach that's going to notice.
That's my point, people.
Because as coaches, we've trained ourselves to look for specific cues to make us more efficient. And so that's how we go through. Whereas an athlete, they're going to focus on, I got a positive result or this was a negative result.
Right.
And again, there's spectrums of athlete. If you're a really high level athlete versus an entry level, you're going to see different things based off of what your knowledge level is. And so that's where we kind of get into that nuance, and we call it, that's the art of coaching.
The art of coaching.
You get to know your athlete and where they are in their spectrum, where you are in your knowledge level. And again, as a young coach, that was hard for me because there were some athletes that had more knowledge than I did. And so I had to kind of humble myself a little bit and recognize I can't help you in this regard, so I need to pass you off to another coach who's a little bit more experienced, has a sharper eye that can see those things. And now from a young coaching perspective, I want to sit in on that meeting so I can sharpen my eye, so moving forward I can still help this athlete improve down the road.
Nice. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing about that. Describe your ministry to a little greater degree. Talk about your ministry and giving people, one of the reasons I'm doing this is to highlight other people's ministry and business and work. I want to give them your website, and if you want to give money to, I want you to have a chance to talk about Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Most of us know about it, but
I mean, we're new to the Pacific Northwest. Fellowship of Christian Athletes is a national and international ministry. We use the platform of athletics to promote and equip kids to know about Jesus and to be able to share their story with fellow teammates and members in their community. And so it was started way back in I think it was 1954. A guy he's like, how come these professional athletes can endorse all these different products? I'm like, well, if they can do that, I'm like, why can't they promote Jesus? And from there, a ministry was born. We had our first FCA convention, I guess, if you will. It was at Estes Park, and then from there, the ministry has just been growing ever since. And so we're here in Spokane. We're trying to grow into the schools. So we want to get into every high school, every middle school to lead these kids. We use our E3 model where we want to engage them first, engage them with the gospel. Then we want to equip them. We want to equip them with knowledge, skills, and then we want to empower them. Okay, you've learned all these different things. Now it's time to be a little bit bolder in your faith because we're called to make disciples and go into all areas. And so now you've got to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. And now you get to go engage with teammates, classmates, or members in your community if you're on club teams or other areas as well. And so through that, we're going to continue to mentor you, guide you, encourage you. But it's really, we're developing skills that are going to outlast your time with FCA. It's going to help you grow closer to Jesus in a personal way and in a knowledge base. So as you go out into the real world, as you graduate, move on, have kids, however old you're getting, you're developing these skills to continually bring you closer to Jesus and to share that gospel with others.
Nice. So if someone wants to give, because I understand that you're raising money to support not only you, but the other members of your team, how would someone give to the ministry here in Spokane?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the unique things about our FCA as a national brand. Everybody is kind of self-funded through the community, because if we're not engaging into the community, it doesn't do any good to sustain the ministry. It has to be coming from the community, because now when the community is supporting it, now they want to see it thrive and grow because it's their kids, it's their neighbors, it's people that they know. And so if you want to get involved with our ministry and ask more questions, please reach out to me. The best way to do that is through my email. It's Brett, Brett, last name Gillen, Gillen, the number 4 at gmail.com. And we can walk down that conversation and see where your heart's at and get you connected and plugged into our community.
Okay, and if they want to give money?
And if they want to give money, we'll shoot you the link and the way to do that. We don't have a website set up yet. That's why I'm hesitant to
What
go
about
that.
a golf tournament or a basketball or a dinner or anything?
We're working through those things. We're scaffolding in. It's just we're so young in our ministry that we haven't been able to establish a lot of those things quite yet. Okay. But we're working on trying to develop a Fields of Faith event, which is going to be a big youth event, hopefully coming in October, where we're going to invite in all of our youth from around the area, bring youth speakers to get up, share their testimony, share their life experiences with Jesus, have some worship and praise, then maybe bring in a keynote speaker who can wrap up the entire event. But man, we're looking to do that. Maybe, we're just in the dream phase right now, but love to do it maybe at the Meade football facility or big time. I'd love to get downtown into that new football facility or
That'd be
soccer
cool.
facility that
Yes.
they just built. So
Nice.
bringing in everybody into the community, big celebration, and just highlighting our youth and their faith.
All right. In your journey, who would you most like to thank and why?
My journey, man, if all honesty, Mike, it has to go back to those 3 kids, those 3 girls that were on that volleyball team. Without them, like, my life trajectory is vastly different. So without their impact and encouragement, my life journey is very, very different.
Can you name names?
I can. I mean, they're out in California. All 3 of them are now married. The 3 were Brittany, Amy, and Taryn, and they were tremendous in my growth in my faith.
Nice.
Next big component would probably be, gosh, I don't know. It's difficult. There's so many different people that come along in your life that create little checkpoints or little redirections in your life that help get you back on track or further encourage you to go. But I would say just those 3 youngins were big in my growth development. I say youngins, I'm only like 2 or 3 years older than them, but they were big in my development.
Okay, so Brett has his son Cooper in the room, and he's starting to make a little noise. So I tell you what, I will ask you a new question.
Sure.
If you want to grab Cooper, you certainly can,
Sure.
and hold him for the rest of our time together.
We'll bring him on.
A little bit of pause.
There we go.
Oh, I see how he's figured that out.
We'll throw some food at him and see if that helps settle his.
So
settle him
this question is a question that I ask everybody, but everybody has different experience with burnout. Like, not everybody I know has experienced a time where they suffered from overload or burnout or redlining or anything like that. But it's a question I like to ask. What's your experience with burnout?
Yeah, as an athlete, I never experienced that, which was wonderful. I mean, I maintained that passion and excitement. As a coach, again, I was very fortunate. I didn't have a chance to really experience that. Like, I saw others who did and go through it, and I got a chance to help kind of walk them through it a little bit. But with our FCA ministry, as we're growing, like, I did experience a little bit of burnout, just because, like, we're meant to do things together. And we're building this ministry here in Spokane through athletics, and I'm isolated a little bit. Like, I didn't have any teammates up here. Like, our closest companions were down in Tri-Cities, Missoula, Montana, and Boise. Like, they're far away. Like, so you're operating a little isolated, and so you're trying to do so many things because you've got this laundry list of things you're trying to accomplish, and that I don't know how other people act, but I'm like, you try to, like, I can do it. If I just do this, and like, you try to do it all on your own, like, but you forget, like, we need God to intercede in our life. And if we're trying to take ownership of everything, which can be a good thing, but it can also be very divisive. It breaks you down. Like, you feel overwhelmed, and it can lead to areas where, if you're not rooted in your faith, or if you turn away from your faith a little bit or wander a little bit, like, it can lead to those things like depression, anxiety, all those things that can really cause some major damage in your life. And so
I'd like to push back just a little, because I know that the faith aspect in general has not lessened, as most of the people that I know who have endured burnout. It's not the faith that is, it's something what you just said. It's that aloneness and the never ending alone with God can still lead to burnout.
Oh, definitely. So I guess let me rephrase that. It's not that you're
rephrase it, please.
It's not that you're leaving. It's not that you're leaving God. It's your attention is no longer on God. It's now on all of your problems, all of your tasks that you're trying to accomplish, and you get so consumed with trying to accomplish those things that you haven't looked back to Jesus. He's like, I'm right here. Let me take some of your burdens. Let me take some of this. Focus back on me again, and watch how much I can transform these events and these tasks that are in your life. So that's more of that. Not that you're drifting away from God. You're losing focus on He's with you, walking with you.
I can live with
that.
Hey,
let me carry some of that stuff for you. And we're like, no, I got it. And He's like, I'm watching you struggle. You're struggling really bad. Just let me take a couple of those things. And
so that was actually the next question. How did you find relief, or how do you see people finding relief? I assume that's your answer.
Yep.
Okay.
I
think slowing down would be better, but whatever.
It's a humbling thing, because again, I can only speak as a former athlete, as a former coach, we think if we work hard enough, if
Right.
we watch enough film, if we do enough things, we can push through and break down any barrier. But
Yeah.
we know through our faith that that's not true. Like
Right.
we
That's
can only do these things because God's given us the tools and
Right.
the abilities to do these things. And if we're taking our focus off of God, our tools are now going to come kind of null and void a little bit, and they don't work as well as they could.
I hear where you're coming from. I see it slightly differently though.
Okay.
Yeah. And the reason is so many of my clients are pastors, you know, and they're even in burnout, they're terribly devoted to God.
That's great.
And their focus is God. It's not like they're walking away from God. And I would argue that they didn't change their directive, but I think one thing you mentioned was really important is they're alone. And two things, they think they can do it in their own strength and power.
Yep.
And so they're walking past, the directive that, we ought to be yoked together with Jesus in a way that's light and easy, which would cause us to slow down, right? It should cause us to back away. And in ministry and in business, I see that, the pyramid of power, at the very top creates a dynamic where there's too much gravity at the top.
Yep.
And because of that, there's too much responsibility, too much effort, too much work, too much intelligence, too much drive. And so that's what creates burnout, in my humble opinion.
I can see that. Yeah. I mean, again, it's a matter of when we try to do things alone, whether we have a companion here on earth or we're trying to have a companion with God and incorporating him into our life. We need somebody else in our life that we can physically turn to and have these conversations to keep us grounded, motivated, and encouraged. Because again, we can't do these things on our own. And then two, that's sometimes we fall into the pitfalls of we try to do everything on our own. So when you're talking about that pyramid, when you get to the top, there's all these extra duties and a bit of pressure. We lead sometimes. When we experience that burnout, we're trying to lead from a worldly perspective as opposed to leading how Jesus led. Jesus didn't lead from a pyramid, and so we fall into that pitfall because we see that's how everybody else does it. That's how all these other businesses do it.
No, you're right. You're right.
It gets us. I mean, there's nothing wrong. Those pyramids are structural. They're great. They work well. But when we find ourselves in those positions, all of a sudden we get a little that sense of entitlement. I'm a little bit better than you, or I know, so I know best. And that's where we really stumble.
Hierarchy is bad. I mean,
that's where we stumble and fall. Hierarchy is good. It should go God, you, family, everything else after that.
Yeah. Okay. What are you looking forward to achieve as you move forward?
Man, I would love to see our ministry thrive. Just not so much for, thankfully, God's given me a heart where I'm not a person that loves to get in front on the stage and be the main focus. And so that'll help in our ministry as we continue to grow, because we want to highlight all of our athletes, all of our coaches. And if we can continue to create a community and a culture where they can learn and grow and thrive in their faith, man, think of the transformation that we can have here in our community. And so that's my dream. That's what I'm ultimately trying to do through FCA. And really the only way that we're going to be able to do that is if I can stay out of the way, let God shine through, and we can continue to highlight our athletes and our coaches. And so we're going to continue to grow into every high school and middle school that we can. We're going to grow into those universities that are here locally as well.
Oh, you didn't I was going to ask about universities, but you didn't mention it.
I didn't. Our bread and butter is high school and middle schools, but we do get into the universities. We've got a small little group going on at Whitworth. We've got a couple people that we're trying to develop something going on at Gonzaga.
Whoa. We
haven't slid out into the Eastern realm yet, but we've got a huddle going at North Idaho College over there in Coeur d'Alene as well.
Nice.
So we're growing, and it's not so much that we're trying to gain in numbers and popularity. We want to transform hearts to know the gospel, be better equipped to share the gospel, and then be better engaged to reach our community to help them know.
So I was
as well.
just thinking, if I'm an athlete, maybe there's a guy that plays for Eastern Washington University on the basketball team, and he loves Jesus, wants to be involved, wants to do something. There's Christians in every high school and every college playing varsity sports, if I can say it like that.
Yep.
How would they?
You
You can grab them if you want.
Yeah, we'll bring them on. But go ahead.
We're gonna add a baby to the podcast, first time ever. His name is Cooper. We call him Mini Cooper because he's small, but he's getting bigger. Welcome to the podcast, Cooper.
All
How's
right.
it going?
Good.
All right.
Keep your voice down, all right? All right.
So the question is, how? Let's say there's an athlete out there that's not involved in anything. What are you hoping that he might?
Yeah, if there's an athlete out there that wants to know more about their faith or wants to grow deeper in their faith, I would love to reach out to them or have them reach out to me so we can walk them through whatever passions and desires they have. And if they've got a heart for it, let's establish a ministry there on their campus or at their school or through their team. Like if they've got a coach that's been a big positive influence for them, love to connect with that coach. Maybe we could meet together and then now we can have these conversations. And that's where we start to build these little huddles, which are basically small groups. And so we build these huddles and now we can start building into relationship. We can build in knowledge of the Bible and what God's word is trying to tell us. And now we can build into our team, our community. And now all of a sudden we're creating transformation within our area. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do.
All right. So if you're an athlete and you're a Christian, or maybe not even a Christian, and maybe you're interested in the faith, reach out to Brett and what's Brett Gillen 4
at
gmail.com.
Yep. BRETTGILLEN, the number 4 at gmail.com, or shoot me a text message. My number is 559-960-3646.
Nice.
So,
nice.
Love to talk to you.
All right. Any parting thoughts?
Man, I really appreciate you giving me the platform. I think what you're doing is great. And so thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks. That's all for today.